In the kitchen today, doing one of my favorite things, the results of a successful hunt, cooking venison. Today, I've got a deer backstrap, and I'm going to walk you through the steps of one of my favorite recipes, stuffed backstrap. We've showed you how we've gotten to this step by skinning the deer, gutting the deer, deboning the meat in a way to create clean and great tasting meat, and also how we stored the meat to make sure it was fresh when it was time to cook. As we've shared, sometimes that gamey meat you hear about venison having is due to the fat or the silver connective tissue that's remained on the skin, and that should all be removed when you're getting ready to process it or when you're preparing it. Removing that will ensure you have a great cut of meat that is pure meat, no connective tissue in there, no fat, and that's going to ensure that that meat tastes very good. When I pulled this backstrap out of the freezer, the first thing I did was de-thaw it. And you can tell when I pulled it out of the bag, once it was thawed, that meat looked very fresh. It looked like I had just taken it out of the deer. And that's because when we cleaned it appropriately and we vacuum sealed it. Vacuum sealing allowed us to get all that air out so there wasn't any risk of any freezer burn. Now, when we got this all thawed out, I went ahead, took a knife and kind of filleted it open. I started on one end of the backstrap and make a cut all the way down, and then very carefully with the tip of the knife start filleting it back. And that allows me to keep that thickness of the meat very consistent as I just kind of cut and unroll the backstrap, if you will. So that allows me to create a very flat and consistent thickness of the backstrap. Having that thickness about the same all the way through ensures that once it gets on the grill, we don't have some spots cook really fast and others not get cooked all the way through. We want that consistency in the meat so when it's on the grill, everything gets cooked the same. Once that backstrap was filleted and opened up, I just added a little Cabela steak seasoning on there to give that meat some flavor, rolled it back up, put it in a bowl, and then little secret recipe here, don't tell anybody, but I added pickle juice. That's kind of my brine, that acid. Let that set overnight in the refrigerator, little pickle juice and that steak seasoning, man, that's gonna give that meat a great flavor. So I've pulled the backstrap out of the refrigerator. I let it marinate overnight. 3 or 4 hours is okay, but if you can get overnight, you'll get some really good flavor. I like to have all those seasonings suck in and get into that meat. So now it's time to stuff the tenderloin. So what I'm going to stuff it with is cream cheese and vegetables. I like mushrooms, peppers, onions. Some people like to add jalapenos in there. I've done some different types of cheeses, not only cream cheese, but some different types of cheeses. So you can mix and match. It really depends on what your family likes to consume and that flavor. But today I have 2 peppers. And I cook those peppers on a low heat with some butter. Let them cook down a little bit. They have a lot of water content, so I like to go ahead and let those cook down a bit. And then I added an onion. And by the time the onion starts cooking down, the peppers are starting to really be where I like them. And then I'll throw my mushrooms in. The mushrooms will cook very quickly. They'll get down. And then I've got a great soft onion and soft peppers with my mushrooms. If I threw my mushrooms in first, then I really have to watch it because they can really cook down fast while those peppers and onions still need time to cook down. I like to add a little garlic powder or fresh garlic while everything's sauteing, and that just helps get a nice little flavor in there. And once everything's done, I have it all sauteed, it's time to stuff. We're going to add the cream cheese first. There's a couple ways you can do that. You can either soften up the block and spread it, or buy that soft spread cream cheese and spread it across the top. I actually like to, while it's cold and a little harder, cut it up, and then that way I can place it on and then add the vegetables throughout. I sliced the cream cheese and lined it up through the backstrap, and you'll notice I left about a 1/2 inch or so of meat along the edge, and that'll be important later. I'll show you why. But now I have our cream cheese in there. It's time to add the vegetables, and I'm just going to spoon them out, get some here and there, and you'll find it'll be easier to kind of lay those peppers lengthwise. And that way they get all the way, you can kind of pack them in there a little bit. And I like to go lengthwise so they don't get, you know, big balls of pepper, but you get those peppers all the way throughout. And like there's a little thin spot, so I'll just know that's going to be a little thinner on the vegetables, because if we get that too big, it's just not going to wrap around. Now I know you get excited, you're like, man, let's stuff this thing full of everything we have. But remember, as you fold this all together and roll it, and we're actually going to use toothpicks to kind of close it up, the more you have in the middle, it's really going to bulge. And what will happen is, as it cooks, a lot of that cream cheese can actually melt out and get out. So I like to, you know, back off, be cautious, just get enough in there to get some flavor. And you'll see I kept everything pretty tight there in the middle and kind of mounted it up a little bit, but I still have that meat here on the edge, on the surrounding edge. So everything's in the middle with about an inch or so around the edges of meat left. And now it's time to roll it up. All right, so I'm just going to take it, just kind of fold it over. And you'll notice as I'm folding it over, there's that extra meat. And I'm going to kind of tuck it in there just a little bit and then lay it back in on itself. So you'll notice when I wrap that extra meat there on the edge helped allow me to kind of tuck it up underneath, help hold that inside. And you can tell if I would have put much more inside, it would have opened up. So allowing that little extra, tuck it in, that'll help hold this all together, keep everything inside. Now you could grill this just like this. Who doesn't love bacon? So I'm actually going to take bacon and I'm going to wrap this. That'll help keep everything inside, keep it together, and also add that great taste and flavor. Bacon wrapped backstrap. And with this end, I will actually kind of tuck this up underneath to help hold some of that cream cheese in. And that'll just help from that cream cheese melting. Tuck that up in there, and that end will hold together very nicely. And then I just start wrapping all the way down, a piece at a time. And then as I'm going, there'll be some spots. What I'll do is I'll just stick a toothpick and I'll try to get on that lip where we kind of have the backstrap coming together, where we fold it in on itself, because there's going to be a little extra meat right there, and that will really help hold together. And I'll just take my toothpick and I will just kind of throw it in there and put it in the bacon as well to help hold that bacon and help hold that backstrap together. We have our backstrap stuffed, wrapped, it's ready for the grill. We're gonna go get that fired up, and while it's warming up, the last thing I like to do is go ahead and wrap it in aluminum foil just once and kind of bring those ends up so we don't have any grease, you know, from the bacon or the butter from sauteing or any of that cheese leak out in the grill. It just helps keep the grill clean, and it's ready for the grill.
I want that smoky flavor, but I open this back up so that smoke can get in here and we can get that flavor. But I've left this high enough where as that bacon cooks and some cheese melts, it's not dripping down. This just makes the cleanup a lot easier. Blood probe in, water, the internal temperature. What I really like about this pellet grill, it's got an app. We can control everything right here on the app on my phone. So I've got it set at 350. I've got a smoke on 4, just get a light little smoky flavor in there. I'll let that get up to 350. Let it sit, start cooking. We're watching that internal temperature.
Just pulled the backstrap off the pellet grill, cooked great. Man, it looks good. Let it rest for about 10 minutes after pulling it off. Just soak in some of those juices. And now it's ready to slice up and serve. Man, this looks good. You can tell by the way we wrapped it, all that meat got cooked through because we kept it pretty thin, that consistent thickness through there, so that heat went through and it cooked evenly throughout. We've got our cream cheese here with our veggies. Now it's time for me to pull out a fork and knife and start eating. Man, that is good. Venison is a healthy and great tasting meat, especially when it's processed and prepared properly. This is one of my family's favorite ways to prepare the backstrap. You may wish to try some different things to fit your family's taste, but I think everyone will agree that stuffed backstrap is very tasty. In our next video, we'll be sharing how we make summer sausage.